we're here for the mayor's redistricting map. Obviously, it's important for the community to be involved. Redistricting is literally the foundation of our democracy. That's why the council wanted to open it up in a way that community members had the ability to express their support, concerns, or provide questions associated with the mayor's map. Real quickly, it's a statutory requirement that happens every 10 years. The council has 60 days to take action. The Baltimore City Solicitor has determined that inside of those 60 days, a veto vote would have to take a course, or if we fall outside of the 60 days, then the council would not have that legislative oversight authority anymore. So we've worked with the mayor. We wanted to ensure that we had a schedule that allowed for community engagement and allowed for community to participate, which you guys are all doing here tonight, but also provided the council the ability to take action so need be in the future. With that, we're going to go right into any comments or questions from community leaders. The one thing I will ask is if you provided a comment last week and you're on and you have the same comment this week, we have it itemized and we have it documented. And we would like for other folks who have not had a chance to speak up. Now, if you have new information or new questions or concerns, you're surely allowed the ability to kind of speak up, but we want to provide as much access to folks to participate in this process. So with that, we're going to turn to the folks here, and obviously we're going to go to Councilman Jim Craft first.
Got it. Okay. We're good. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for the kind words. Mr. President, Councilwoman, my name is Jim Craft. I did have the pleasure to serve in this august body at one time, and I thank you for all the courtesy that you're extending to me here today. I do note that the president did say that sometimes we disagree, and today we're going to disagree. Or I don't know if we disagree or not. Oh, great. I'm going to convince. I haven't made
a determination yet.
Great. Then I'm going to convince you to be where I want you to be.
What I tell folks is my line is the whole line. It's Baltimore City. I don't have any individual line.
Great, great. In 2003, the first election was held with 14 individual council districts. In the first district, this created a particular problem because when creating the new districts, one incumbent not only lived in the northeast quadrant of the old district, but his family were also the longtime owner-operators of a well-known business on Eastern Avenue in Highlandtown. Suffice it to say that this situation resolved itself on the new council map by Highlandtown being cut in two. The northeast portion going into the second district with that incumbent, and the remainder of Highlandtown staying in the first district. Fast forward 10 years, redistricting again, 2011, when I was here, and there was the first chance to remedy that mistake. I worked very hard to get the mayor to reunite Highlandtown, and then as now, the first district had gained population, and therefore it had to lose population. I argued at that point that it made more sense to do what Mayor Scott is doing now, and that is to move Little Italy and Harbor East out of the first district and to reunite Highlandtown. The mayor chose not to do that. Mayor Scott is correcting that problem as required by law. He's making a more compact, more contiguous first district. The people of Highlandtown are not only back together after 20 years, but they are back together in their home district, the first district where they had been for generations. Now, I've been told that there is a map in your office that may take all of Highlandtown out of the district. And some have said that is for the sole purpose of ending Mark Parker's candidacy for council there. If so, this would be despicable, and it would be politics at its worst. Highlandtown is the traditional heart of the first district. Moving it cuts it. Of just in greatest importance in Highlandtown is that Baltimore's Latino community is centered in the Broadway Eastern Avenue corridor. The Highlandtown census tracts hold among the highest density of Latino population in the city. Moving Highlandtown out of the first would be an intentional dilution of the Latino population in the city of Baltimore. I'm not certain, but I also think that a strong argument could be made that it would be a violation of the Voting Rights Act. It's my understanding that Liam Davis, and we all know Liam, is the other major candidate for council in the first. And I know Liam. And I know that he certainly does not want Highlandtown to be divided. And he doesn't want Highlandtown to be taken out of the first district. I truly believe, and I don't know this for certain, but I truly believe he doesn't want the Latino population taken out of the first district either. And I hope that he will come out and oppose any effort to move Highlandtown out of the first district. While the mayor's map takes some neighborhoods from the first, it's done on the fringes of the neighborhoods that were discussed 10 years ago. I ask that you support the mayor's district and stop anything that would prevent the district from having a free and fair election with all of the candidates who have been working so hard to date to represent the people of Southeast Baltimore. And I thank you once again for giving me the time and the courtesy that you have extended to me.
Thank you so much, Councilman Kraft. Next up, we're going to go to John Seacott. And I would like to mention that Antonio Glover from the 13th District has joined us. Mr. Seacott, the floor is yours.
There we go. How's that? Thank you so much. My name is John Seacott. I work in Clifton Park every day with an entity called Civic Works. And my testimony is in regards to Clifton Park and the potential moving of it out of the 14th district. So I ask the question, does it matter which district Clifton Park is in? After all, there are no voters living in Clifton Park. This story may answer that question. A short time ago, Clifton Park had the original 1923 Clifton Park High School, which is alongside Harford Road, closed and abandoned. At the same time, the Lawrence Paquin School on Sinclair Lane closed, abandoned. And the school system had a plan to close Lake Clifton High School and abandon it just as soon as a new high school could be built on top of Clifton Park baseball fields. The voices of the 14th district said no. The voices of the 14th district said, we must find a new educational entity to take over the Paquin building. We must direct the state's 21st century schools over $50 million to the renovation of the existing 1923 Clifton Park High School, and must find a developer for the Lake Clifton site who would make the site productive for the broader community. The voices of the 14th attracted Morgan into the Clifton Park fray. All three objectives were achieved. The voices of the 14th district did those things and other things, sometimes speaking in partnership with others, sometimes speaking alone, but always speaking for the good of Clifton Park as the asset that must serve the entire city as a thriving recreational and educational park. I believe that the residents of the 14th district will continue to speak for the students who attend the high schools in Clifton Park, will continue to speak for the enhancement of recreational facilities, whether it's the new tennis courts or new sports stadium for the high school. The people of the 14th will continue to speak for the preservation of Clifton Park open space, the preservation and new uses for the band shell, Mother's Garden, the Valve House, the mansion, the Rita Church Community Center and gym, the Gardener's Cottage, and the other assets within Clifton Park. The people of the 14th will continue to speak for the development of attractive walkways, bikeways in Clifton Park that connect to the surrounding assets, such as Montebello and all the residential neighborhoods on every side. The residents of the 14th, all along Harford Road and the Alameda, will continue to involve themselves in Clifton Park improvement. But imagine expecting them to do that, to involve themselves without a seat on this council. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the effective thing to do? Actually, no, it is not. Keep Clifton Park in the 14th district because the 14th has the deep knowledge of the park and has the momentum for its improvement.
Thank you. Next up, we have Foley Umoja.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Faule Umoja.
Faule.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
resident of 14th District on 30th Street for over 40 years. I work with the committee of CHUM, Cultural Homestead Montebello. And I was advised that the new districting map was supposed to be to equal out the voting power of the 14th and the 12th district. And I was confused about that because when you're trying to take the park away from the 14th district, and I'm looking at the park and the voting power of the park, there are no people living in the park. So I thought that was kind of strange that you're going to take an iconic view of our park, of our neighborhood, one that has been sitting there, as Mr. Seacock said, that we have done so many good things for our neighborhood and this city, away for voting power, whereas the park gives no voting power to the 14th district or the 12th district. So if that map is going to take the park away, supposedly, for voting, I cannot accept that. And I don't think the 14th district will accept it. And I don't understand unless whoever's making that decision, they could say it's for a reason that you do it every 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, or 50 years. But if you're saying you're doing it for reasons for votes, I don't think that I could accept it. The neighborhood could accept it, or anyone logically could accept it. I know I had a whole lot of other things to say, but if I did say them, it was be too aggressive.
Uh-uh.
And I'm looking at my council person, and she know how aggressive I can get. So I'll table that for right now.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I do not understand if you want to change our neighborhood, take out the Clifton Park out of the 14th district because of votes, and you're going to remove it, and there are no votes. Something is wrong with that picture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, Carol Geit.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am a retired school teacher, 39 years, and that's what brings me here this evening. Between the mid-70s and the mid-80s, I taught at Lake Clifton High School. I could spend the next 3 hours talking about the inequities for the zoned comprehensive high schools, but that's not my primary purpose here this evening. My primary purpose is, and I should say that I live in the 3rd district, but I am here to state my opinion and my objection to Clifton Park being removed from the 14th district, where it's been for a very long time, at least throughout this century that I know of, because Mary Pat Clark, it was in her district, and now it's in Councilwoman Ramos's district. The primary concern is that we have unfinished business with Lake Clifton and also with the football field that should have been constructed when the school was renovated, but was not. And the amount of time and work and effort that has been put in by the Alumni Association, and particularly the president, Richard McCoy, Councilwoman Ramos. In order for this project to move forward, and it has moved forward greatly because the money has been secured. Despite the objections of, we don't have money for this, and we don't have money for that, money has been found. And as Benjamin Franklin said at the beginning of our history about our republic, when asked what kind of government it is, it's a republic as long as we can keep it. And I say to you, it's a secured fund for as long as we can keep it. And delay gives opportunity for money to just disappear. And the only predictor, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And money has certainly disappeared from Lake Clifton High School in the past to the tune of $13 million that has brought us to this day of Lake Clifton on the chopping block to be demolished. However, back to the football field. One of the hardest things, and I know this firsthand, when you open a new school is to create a positive culture for that school. It can be done in many ways. There are many avenues, one of which is sports. At Reach Partnership, we have coaches that are beyond devoted. When I taught at Lake back in the 70s to the 80s, the football coach was there. He was there as a student and later came back to work with the team and then ultimately has become the football coach. Now, he is now in his 60s. And if ever there's a dedicated person, it is he. And he speaks about his children at Reach Partnership and talks about the inequities that they have put up with for the last 4 years.
Ms. Kite, if you could
Yes.
close us out.
Oh, there's a time. Okay. In order to keep this project on task, on time, because there's a time limit, because Morgan owns everything, and Morgan certainly, nothing against Morgan. Morgan has been more than helpful because they're allowing us to use the facility. But it's going to be demolished, all of it. And we have a time frame. If we don't keep to that time frame, it's gone. The children have no field. There's no track field. There's no football field. This is about the message that we send to today's students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kite. Next up, Marquesa. What is it? No, Mary Sue? No, Marquesa?
Yep, that's her.
Mary Sue? Are you a doctor?
No.
I was talking about your handwriting.
Yes, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. That's what brought me to Baltimore. So I was practicing beforehand.
Okay, see?
All right. Hi, I'm Marizu Onyanaka. I am a board member of CHUM, a resident of the 14th district for the last 17 years, and I used to be Odette's neighbor a long time ago. I want to talk a little bit about moving Clifton Park out of the 14th. That is a problem for us. If you look at it geographically, the largest border of Clifton Park is actually along the entire border of CHUM. Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello, almost all of Hartford Road. all the way to 32nd Street. It is the opening to our community. We have no less than 2 signs that tell you you're in Coldstream Homestead, Montebello on Harford Road. I won't go into how much we have done to advocate for Clifton Park. I have definitely been at too many meetings. I have been at school design sessions, and I don't have children. But I've been there fighting for the last 17 years. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about geography. There is nothing against the 12th district, but if you look at how wide it is, it's almost 2.5 miles wide. It's almost 3.5 miles deep. And Clifton Park is the furthest north, the furthest east. And really, the parts that have voters of that precinct that is part of the 12th, it's 2 blocks of 25th Street and 2 blocks of Sinclair Lane. It is an afterthought for them. It will stay an afterthought for them because for the 12th, it's not their only park, and it is too far away from the majority of the residents of the 12th for them to be advocating for it. Versus, I can see it, and I don't live on Harford Road, from my house, from my front porch, because of the way my street is, I can see Clifton Park. It is always on my mind. I drive down and past Clifton Park and call 311 about trash, broken trees, lights on my way home all the time. That's the level of advocacy you have currently situated in the 14th district. There is nothing to say that no one in the city, that people in the city can't use that park. Absolutely, it's a public park. The people in Darley Park probably don't use it so much because it's behind them. Between them and Clifton Park is a whole train, the CSX train is behind their houses. Clifton Park doesn't even face their houses. It's behind their houses, and between them is the train, and then there's the school. Pardon me if it does not seem very likely that we will get the same level of advocacy. And we have made great strides in Clifton Park. We cannot afford to lose the momentum. We're at a place, at a moment in history where the historic opportunity for Morgan to come move a campus into that park. This is investment. This is the thing we've been working for 30 years. This is a master plan come to life. And separating the voters from the people who are accountable. So the voters who care about Clifton Park are the people who are in my community, along the edge of Clifton Park, that use the park, that advocated for the park. We're the ones who showed up and made, if Odette wasn't gonna care, which she was definitely gonna care because we cared. And so imagine things like, say, the Caribbean Festival, which for the last 5 years we've had problems with, because part of it is that they walk through our community on the Fete, all the way down Alameda, and they leave a trail of trash that is unbelievable. But at least we were able to call to our council person after those events and get our park cleaned. So the problem of geography, I think, is something really that should be considered. Also, there's less than 400 voters in that little precinct. So I know Baltimore City has ghost precincts that have green space. Clifton Park is a huge green space that could be a ghost precinct, and you could just, take your little 400 people and keep them in the 12th and let us keep the landmass because we're advocating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, Mark Washington, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos. And thank you, people of Chum, for being here. I'm going to read a prepared statement. I will try to be as brief as possible. Clifton Park is not Chum's backyard. It is not our side yard. For over 1 mile, it is our front yard. And this redistricting plan will place Chum and Clifton Park in separate council districts. This issue is about more than redistricting. It is about shifting demographics, urban flight, and the loss of a political power base. As the tide of district politics shifts, our communities might be further marginalized every 10 years. What compelling arguments can a community make that would persuade the council to alter the mayor's proposed redistricting map? Is it that, as proposed, the mayor's map would essentially separate a community asset, Clifton Park, from its largest population base? Is it that unlike other communities across the city, Chum, which has the longest border with this asset, will be disenfranchised, left looking at a front lawn that they have no influence over? Or is it that the park is not even situated in the same census tract as the proposed redistricting map drawn by the mayor? What compelling arguments can a community make to reverse a fait accompli? Until recently, Chum struggled to capture the attention and support of our elected representatives. Elected officials overseeing Chum dismissed residents' concerns regarding Clifton Park events, activities, and usage. They endorsed events that were too large for park venues and sought support for detrimental park activities from communities unaffected by the ensuing noise, litter, vandalism, public urination, drug use, property damage, parking disputes, and more. During one event where an elected official served as the grand marshal for a parade, Chum residents endured nearly $35,000 in property damage. A city employee struck a parked car owned by a Chum resident. Illicit acts occurred on our sidewalk, and our residents faced physical threats. Lawns were trampled, debris scattered, patio furniture was commandeered, and homes and automobiles suffered damage. Despite Chum's persistent efforts to engage state and local representatives on these issues, our pleas fell upon deaf ears. Our neighborhood became a destination for outsiders to engage in uncontrolled revelry. The post-event response from city agencies was lackluster, leaving the community and local businesses to shoulder the burden of cleanup. After persevering through years of disregard, a community that pioneered transformative projects, including 21st Century Schools initiatives, the establishment of an HBCU present, enhancement in park lighting and public safety, the assurance of safe school passages for our youth, improved recreational amenities, leadership and preservation efforts, and more, harnessed the strength of their votes to demand attention and drive much-needed corrective measures. Now, as we approach the impending redistricting, Chum faces a significant change in fortune. Our influence is at risk as we will lose our voting power due to Clifton Park, our community's front yard, no longer being within our district. It will be taken away through an expedient process that lacks thoughtful deliberation and innovative solutions. This situation represents a glaring case of voter disenfranchisement, and the proposed map embodies this problem. The City Council possesses the capability to correct this slight, to redraw the map more equitably, and to achieve the balance required. Clifton Park will be the only park in the city that is separated from its largest population base and the communities that have dedicated significant effort to advocating for it. New residents attracted to the area moving into new housing development projects that sit directly across from the park will wonder why their political representation and voice is mute on matters regarding one of the assets that lured them to the neighborhood. There will be no conversation because there will be no representation. The wisdom of Solomon is not needed here. The council can relocate the entirety of Darley Park into the 12th district while preserving Clifton Park, a piece of land lacking votes, in the 14th district. We implore you to do the right thing. Chum should not be compelled to bear the fruit of a poor decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, we're going to go to folks online. First up, I see is Christian Bielski. We're going to unmute you. Please state your name, community you're from, and begin your testimony. You have 2 minutes. Oh, sorry, I thought he was going. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great. So my name is Christian Bielski. I am a District 1 resident. I'd just like to start out by thanking you, Council President Mosby and the City Council for having this redistricting town hall, and for the previous one on last Tuesday. I know others in the community are appreciative of allowing us to provide feedback. As we know, no redistricting map will please everyone or be perfect. Even though that is the case, I think redistricting in a fair, equitable way is important. Looking at the mayor's map, it has some disappointments, like splitting Upper Fells Point and Fells Point, but also has some other positives, such as reuniting Highlandtown in the 1st District. One thing the mayor's map does accomplish, it does provide that all the currently declared candidates vying for their respective seats a chance to run in their community. The mayor's map allows our community, to make informed decisions about who represents their best interests. Many of these candidates have raised funds, knocked doors, and continue to make their case to represent their community. So I hope, as you gather this feedback, that the council decides not to be a kingmaker and allows democracy to work. I just want to end by thanking you for the effort to be transparent and fair, and I hope you remain steadfast in your commitment to allow the democratic process to take place. I appreciate you having these hearings, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Next up, we're going to go to Katie Kelly. We're working to unmute you.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
There we go. The
Okay,
floor is
great.
yours, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President Mosby. Thank you, City Council, for having us all here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about this. And I agree that no redistricting map will please everybody, but I do see some things in this map that simply don't make sense to me. The first thing that struck me is simply that Baltimore is a city of neighborhoods, and the mayor should know that above everyone else because he grew up here, and neighborhoods should be kept together. I live in the Heathbrook section of Hose Heights in currently Council District 7, Councilman Torrance, who we love and we think he's wonderful. Separating part of Hose Heights into Council District 6 will not only divide a historically Black neighborhood into 2 sections, but Hose Heights is one of the smallest neighborhoods in the entire city. If you split us up into 2 halves like this, that is fewer than 200 homes that are joining Council District 6, which has the very powerful and very vocal Roland Park in it. And if we are put into Council District 6 with Roland Park, we will 100% lose any voice that we have to make decisions for our neighborhood. And we will be separated from our neighbors in the rest of Hose Heights. Just recently, our community went through a big fight to keep our Roland Water Tower Road open, which is the entryway to our neighborhood. And we were able to show how much this community can come together, how strong our very, very small neighborhood is when we unite. And separating us the way that it is proposed in this redistricting map will take away any power that this neighborhood has. And I really feel incredibly strongly that fewer than 200 homes should not be taken away from their neighborhood and lumped in with a very large council district that we share no interests with whatsoever. Everyone who lives in Hose Heights shares interests with Medfield, with Hamden, with Remington. Those are the neighborhoods that most closely align with ours. If we are put in with Council District 6, we are going to have no voice in choosing what happens to our neighborhood. And I am just so opposed to this. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And I feel that our neighborhood needs to be kept together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Next up, we're going to go to, if you could please use the hand raise function for us to acknowledge you and provide you the opportunity and space to comment. I see C. Gross. Seagross, can you hear me? If you have the name Seagross, your mic has been unmuted, and now is your time to speak. Going once, going twice. We will come back, circle back to give you the opportunity to speak. Moving on, the next person I see is Colleen Dole. Colleen, your mic's unmuted. You can speak.
Thanks. I live right on the borderline of what is proposed to be now the two sections of Fells Point right on Eastern Avenue. Most of the activity that both positive and negative that would lead me personally to need support from my council person comes from lower Fells Point up rather than from upper Fells Point down. And I know many of my upper Fells Point neighbors would agree with that, at least in my immediate neighborhood and area. And I'm really concerned that this would disenfranchise me from proper, representation related to any issues, good and bad, support I want to throw into certain initiatives, as well as getting certain things rectified. And I just think dividing Fells Point up into two separate halves is a bad idea. That's literally all I had to say.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and providing your testimony. Your civic engagement is truly appreciated and welcome. Thank you. Next up, we're going to go to Deborah Mason.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you. Good evening, President Mosby and members of the council. My name is Deborah Mason, and I'm the president of the Mayfield Improvement Association. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to comment on the mayor's proposed redistricting. Mayfield is in both the 3rd and the 14th districts. And like Chum, we too would be affected by the proposed removal of Clifton Park to the 12th. I'm going to be presenting the issue of the redistricting plan to our general membership meeting on the 19th, and I will be asking our members for their input on the plan to move Clifton Park to the 12th district. But in the meantime, I wanted to raise the following concerns. First of all, I wholeheartedly agree with the issues raised by the members of Chum and by Mr. Seco, who have testified against the removal of Clifton Park from the 14th. I thought that what they said was obvious but needed to be said. I also want to raise the question of how this change would help meet the requirements of population compactness or contiguity set out in the website. There will be no change in population since no one lives in the park, so it does not have an impact on the population in either the 12th or the 14th district. And it appears that the 12th would be a lot less compact than it is now, and the park was already contiguous with the 14th. So I don't see the legal necessity for moving the park from one district to the other. Also, Chum and Mayfield and other neighborhoods are looking to the city about the proposal of looking at Herring Run, Lake Montebello, and Clifton Park holistically as an integrated green resource that meets the needs of the neighborhoods, the city, and regional users. And currently, these three entities are in the 14th, Clifton and Lake Montebello in their entirety, and Herring Run in part. But removing Clifton Park, the largest of these three areas, from the 14th would make a complex but necessary proposal even more difficult. So for these reasons, and for the reasons outlined by the Chum members and Mr. Seco, I strongly urge the City Council to nix, in whatever way it can, the proposal to take Clifton Park out of the 14th. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I would like to pause and welcome and thank Nina Themelis from the Mayor's Office for joining us here tonight. Next up, I see Jeff Parnell.
Good evening. I wanted to reiterate what Colleen said. I do think there's a lot of value in keeping the Upper Fells and Fells proper communities together in a single cohesive unit. And speaking of, I'm particularly concerned about the way that the proposal carves out, not along a geographic line, but along what appears to be an arbitrary line on Chester Avenue. And I think that is a particularly problematic way of addressing it, considering we have some overlapping community associations that do not follow the city documented neighborhoods. I think that it's going to further fragment what's already a loss of unified voice for the residents of a particular neighborhood to be split up into different community associations as well as different districts. So I'm particularly concerned or curious to find out what the decision factor was for Chester Avenue and how we can go about amending that to, at the very least, and it's not my preferred decision to have the change from the 1st to the 13th, but to, at the very least, if that's going to happen, to have it follow Patterson Park Avenue using a geographic boundary instead of an arbitrary intra neighborhood bisecting line. Thank you.
No, thank you for joining us tonight. Next up, we're going to go to Justin Lane.
Good evening, Council President Mosby, members of the council and council staff. Thank you for holding this hearing. I know that the council, like the communities, is under a very tight turnaround time to comment on and do anything about this map. And I appreciate your making time for us. I am here in the capacity as a board member for the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association. The proposed map divides our neighborhood in two. It separates the southern portion of South Baltimore from the rest of the South Baltimore Peninsula. That is the purple that is surrounded by the light yellow and the water on this map, which I think makes it a particularly egregious example of something that should not happen geographically. It groups it with distant neighborhoods that are situated across a large body of water. South Baltimore constitutes a long-established community of interest. It's part of the larger South Baltimore Peninsula, which is sort of the lower section of what's currently the 11th District. Runs from Federal Hill down to Locust Point. Splitting South Baltimore Neighborhood Association between two districts will dilute our neighborhood's influence. Splitting it between two districts will make it more difficult for the neighborhood to represent the neighborhood's interests, particularly in terms of public safety, land use, and development. South Baltimore represents residents and businesses south of Cross Street, north of McComas, east of Ray Street, and west of Light Street. The three precincts that make up the neighborhood are the northern portion of 23-3, that is the isolated purple patch in the southwest, and the southern portion of 23-1 and the southeastern portion of precinct 23-2. These precincts together constitute the 23rd Ward. All three of them, as the map shows, have been part of the 11th District since the 2011 redistricting. From the 2003 to 2011 districts, which Councilman Kraft mentioned earlier, the South Baltimore Peninsula from just north of the number 11 there, all the way down to the south end, were part of District 10. So this is not even that much about District 11 versus District 10. It's about the fact that these communities should be kept together. We have a lot in common with the neighborhoods around us. That we constitute a community of interest, which is any group of citizens who have a lot of things that are in common with each other, that work on projects together, that work on public policy together. And we do not have nearly as much in common with the other communities assigned to the 10th District. So 2303, just to talk about it for a second, that starts partway through South Baltimore, continues through the neighborhood's southern boundary, goes under the massive I-95 overpass down into Port Covington, which has historically not had much of a population. This area will see major expansion in the next several years. The SB 6 does not consider South Baltimore to be part of its coalition because the organizers understood that this neighborhood did not have enough in common to be grouped with that. In terms of the business district that we orient toward, that is Federal Hill Main Street, and to a lesser extent down Ford Avenue. Both of these are staying in the 11th Council District. Many of the public safety issues that affect South Baltimore are commonly held with Federal Hill South, Sharp Leadenhall, and Riverside, rather than the neighborhoods across the Middle Branch. South Baltimore Neighborhood Association has been working with bar owners in the neighborhood on memoranda of understanding to regulate how those operations work. Those operations attract a certain amount of disorder, which we saw tragically about a week and a half ago when a Howard.
Mr. Lane,
Yes,
if you
am I
could
running
start to
over?
wrap up your testimony.
Yes. The other things that are to be kept in mind here are that we have to work with the police district, the liquor board, the health department, DOT, Federal Hill Main Street, and other Federal Hill neighborhoods. This map makes it incredibly difficult for us to do that. I thank you for considering our arguments when considering this map. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for coming out and participating tonight. Next up, I see Isaac Leal. We'll unmute you. Please state your name, where you're calling from, and then begin your testimony. You're unmuted, Mr. Leal.
Yes, hi. My name is Isaac Leal. I am in District 12 in Midtown in Councilman Stokes' neighborhood, district, excuse me. And I spoke last week, but I wanted to talk this week about the TOD rezoning that in and around the Penn Station neighborhood that has been split between, based on my visual understanding of looking at the zoning map and of looking at this current map between the 11th, 12th, and 7th districts. And due to the completion of the Frederick Douglass Tunnel in the late 2020s, early 2030s, and the broader rezoning, these sort of areas will see greater development, just based on historically population growth trends from 2010 to 2020 in the neighborhood, where Midtown grew by 22%. And then as well as just in terms of overall change, I wanted to say that I think that those the TOD should be in one district. I'm personally pretty agnostic as to which district. I think any representative would be excellent and would advocate for strong development and the creation of a vibrant neighborhood as part of a broader economic integration of Baltimore with the Northeast Corridor. And so I am fully, just advocating for keeping the TOD in rezoning in one district. I understand it's difficult because you can't really, Baltimore doesn't really want to split up precincts due to, logistical challenges with that, and trying to keep population deviation within the normal mean. I have provided, I think I emailed the city like 22 different shape files for different maps. I'm relating to my testimony from last week and sort of this issue and other issues that I noticed. But I just want to say, and so I don't know if you'll receive them or make an alternate map or anything like that, but they're there. And I want to say thank you for your time, and please try and keep the TOD district in one city council district. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo. Next up, Catherine Klosik.
Hey, I'm Catherine Klosek. I grew up in South Baltimore. I went to Seton Keough and Johns Hopkins University, and I'm now a homeowner in Highlandtown for the better part of a decade, actually. And like others, I really appreciate the transparency of this process and the opportunity to share my views.
The council appreciates that.
Thank you. I do support the mayor's proposal, like others, to unite all of Highlandtown in District 1. I want to give a +1 to Nick Frazone's comments in the chat, and I hope that those are recorded for the record. At the beginning, Jim Kraft mentioned the possibility of another map. I don't know, I haven't seen such a map, but I also wanted to say that I do think it would be a bait and switch for a new map to be introduced after this transparent process, especially since, as others have mentioned, council has such a tight window to vote on the redistricting map. And really, as others have said, I think introducing a new map at this late stage that doesn't include all current council candidates for District 1 would be disingenuous and undemocratic. So again, thank you for this process. I support the mayor's proposal to unite Highlandtown in District 1, and thank you for the opportunity. My dog has opinions too.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next up, for hands raised. I don't believe we have any additional hands raised. We went to Claudia already. Seagross we had. Is there anybody else online that would like to testify? If so, please raise your hand. It's at the bottom of the screen next to the smiley face. You can see my pointer hovering over it. I think that's all that we have online. While we can, I see one, I'm sorry. Craig Huntley. I hear you, Claudia. We'll come to you. Sorry, I thought that we heard from you. We'll come to you next, Claudia Tulls. Right now, we're with Craig Huntley.
Quick question. Will the city council prepare an alternate redistricting map? And if so, when would be presented?
So right now, it's not the opportunity for questions and answers. I will answer that question, but that's the point of this process. So the point of this process is not for folks to come in front of the council and just blow smoke to the council, but the point of this process is for the council to take what we're hearing from residents all throughout the city of Baltimore and produce a map that the council would ultimately be supportive in voting out. So that's what this process is here.
Answers the important question.
I think it would be disingenuous for the council to allow citizens to participate in the past 5 meetings that we've had, and the council was not prepared to make any change or consider any of the changes that was provided to us.
Thank you.
But you can begin your testimony, please.
That was my big part of it. The rest is just in everybody else with keeping neighborhoods together. But I said that last week. I don't want to add to that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Huntley. We appreciate your participation and engagement tonight. Ms. Tolles, I think we skipped over you. We would like to come back to Ms. Tolles. There we go.
There we go.
Ms. Tolles,
Sorry,
you're unmuted. There you go.
Hi, good evening. Again, I'd like to echo the fact that this is a process for you to consider what community members are evaluating as they look at this map that was proposed by the mayor. And I understand that this is an opportunity for folks to interject and share their opinions. I am a candidate for District 1, and like the other 2 men, and I think actually 3 men that are candidates, I understood that there would be a redistricting. In fact, many of us conversed about the fact that that was looming. Without a clear timeline, obviously, we launched our campaigns and we've been working towards voter engagement. On our last town hall and the last opportunity I had to speak, I pledged that, first of all, that I was hoping that the council and that the mayor's office would have the community's best interest over any personal interest of any one individual in mind when drawing the lines of this redistricting. And, I pledged not to interfere with the redistricting process, and I invited my other candidates to take part in that pledge, as well as now any other candidate that is seeking office in the city, because it's not just District 1 that has an election, it's a citywide election, as most of us understand that. So I would just like to reiterate that fact and to allow the process to go through where community members have the opportunity to voice their concerns and to have community cohesiveness and neighborhood alignment in mind as a primary reasoning for drawing lines, and not anyone's personal or private interest, whether it's a candidate or anyone else's special interest. So again, thank you, President Mosby, for allowing us to speak and to share our views. And I just would like to again reiterate that community comes first, and it's not about any one candidate or any one individual. It's about keeping the advocacy engines going for those communities, many which have shared here about their concerns regarding that in particular, and community associations being within one district when possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have that might be it. We never got C. Gross. The hand is still raised. C. Gross, would you like to speak? Ms. Gross? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're gonna move back on. Again, if there's anybody else online with the hand raised, please use the hand raise signal at the bottom. That will alert us and we will come to you. I do see one, Ms. Joyce Smith from Northwest. Ms. Joyce Smith, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, Ms. Smith.
Okay, I'm coming back to you again because I found out some information that's new since last meeting. And I'd asked for a map of the streets that were be a part of our redistricting in the 5th and the 6th district, which I don't have yet. But my concern, and I believe that this is still a proposed map, not a carved in stone product. If I'm wrong, let me know.
No, you're exactly correct. Again, that's why I spoke up to the last gentleman. It would be disingenuous of this council if we would have citizens spend hours and hours talking to us. I think this is our 5th meeting that we've opened it up to the public and not take your questions, your concerns, your comments seriously as it relates to our work that we have to do from a legislative perspective.
Thank you very much.
The floor is yours. Yes.
So my concern in looking at the 5th and 6th district split, it seems to me that at the top of the 5th district, which had increased in population with one city council person, I'm referring to the Jewish part of the district with Councilman Yitzi Schleifer. And the other part of the district, the lower part of the 5th district, which had a little fewer population, is being moved into the 6th district. So I don't understand, because that would give us 3 council people in the Howard Park section in particular of the 5th district, which is predominantly African American, and why that would be split up, chopped up, and the 5th district portion, which is predominantly Jewish, is staying intact with just one councilman. So you're going from one councilman in one section to three in another section and moving part of the 5th district, where we were originally the 5th. We had 5th district council and the 8th district council. And now we would be 5th, 6th, and 8th. And the top part of the district stays the same with one councilman. So I don't understand why, if it had to be a balance, why part of that part of the district couldn't be moved over to the 6th and left the bottom portion alone. I have a problem with that. It looks like gerrymandering based on race. And that's a problem for me. So I know you can't answer it. And I would like to see a map of where these new street guidelines are. I know these colors on this map represent some streets. So I've posed that, and I don't think my councilman is on the call, but be that as it is, that's a concern. I'm Joyce Smith, president of Howard Park Civic Association, and speaking for the group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President, for joining us tonight. Let me see one more final check through all of the folks that we have online to ensure that we've provided everyone with the opportunity who would like to speak, the opportunity to speak online. And I think we've gone through. So is there anyone else in the chambers who would like to speak, who has not had an opportunity? We went off the list of the sign up sheet. Is there anybody here who would like to speak? Going once, going twice. We will just open it up one more time to folks virtually. Again, at the bottom of your screen is the hand raise function next to the little smiley face. You press that, we will know that it is your wish to speak. But I do not see any new folks. So, folks, this will conclude this work session, this town hall to discuss this. Obviously, as was talked about from some of the testimony, this is an extremely tight frame, that timeline that the council has to endure. Obviously, it is the wishes of our Baltimore City Charter. You know, I think through this process, I know I've learned a lot. I think that the council, as we've constantly tried to do year after year, professionalize and try to look at best practices for good governance, that there will possibly be changes. So in 10 years, this process will be more transparent, more open, and lengthier to allow for that level of important dialogue and engagement. I know I don't just share this alone. I share this probably definitely with the entire council, and probably with most of the folks who've called in today and participated in all our hearings, particularly the folks that have been at every single one of the 5 so far. That this process is critically important. It's literally the foundation of what our democracy is built off of. And that's why we wanted to take it very serious and ensure that we provided an opportunity for all. I do want to make one note that it seems like we've received a lot of comments regarding some boundaries associated with the 1st district and something related to candidates. That is of concern. I'm not sure what message, I know you guys are heavily running in the 1st district. I'm not sure what message you have received to think that anybody on this council, anybody on the mayor's staff in City Hall would participate in such a thing. This has never been about any one candidate, any one district. We are a city of neighborhoods that share tremendous assets and tremendous anchor institutions and facilities and resources. And it's that one that really brings us all together as opposed to these arbitrary lines that look to divide us. Again, this is an important process. It's a critical process, but it's also ensured that we work together and we provide as much transparency and accessibility. The last thing I'll say is as it relates to this council and us moving forward, you know, obviously, if there is a change to the mayor's map that the council decides to make, some people will be happy, some people won't. If we go forward with the mayor's map the way it is, some people will be happy, some people won't. That is this process, but that's also the job that the council has signed up for. And I look forward to continue to work with the council members to ensure that we hear all the questions, all the concerns, and we come up with a map and that we can be proud of, that does fit into the ideals of continuity and compactness, which is the guidelines that we should live by as it relates to this redistricting process. With that said, please be on the lookout from my office on any additional meetings, any additional next steps associated with the maps that we have in place. Council members, we've itemized all of the comments that questions and concerns that have been provided to us from the constituents over the past 5 meetings. If you have any particular wants, needs, questions, or concerns, please ensure that we know as we continue to move forward with the process and next steps. So again, please be on the lookout for the meeting or any future next steps. We'll email it out. We'll do social media. We'll do all the same things that kind of brought each and every one of you here today. So again, thank you for joining. Thank you for your civic engagement. We truly, truly appreciate you. Baltimore, we love you.